On PM Express tonight, we're going to probe the latest corruption survey that was done by the CDD. A case of government performance versus trust in the opposition. I mean, that is a very interesting dynamic there that we're trying to go and explore tonight on the show. And what does the research say? That Ghanaians perceive an increase in corruption levels over the last 1 year. That also there's a low score for government when it comes to its fight against corruption, that is graft. We also know approval ratings for the government anti-corruption efforts have declined, and this is interesting, sharply since 2017 after more than doubling in the previous 3 years. And so this has been consistent since 2017 when this government took power. Now the survey also shows that most Ghanaians perceive at least some corruption in key public institutions, and a majority fear retaliation if they in fact report corruption. Now, very interesting findings. Now, among the, and this is where that you get to the meat of it. This is among key public officials in Ghana: the police, the judges, magistrates, members of parliament, civil servants, and tax officials are most widely perceived as corrupt. You think judges won't be in the picture because of there was almost a purge when Anas turned his spotlight on it. A lot of them lost their jobs, etc., etc. But we're still seeing that they're featuring very strongly. In fact, the judges are only second to the police when it comes to corruption. That is pretty alarming. And of course, we have members of parliament in there as well, are the fourth most corrupt when it came to what the people said. And so politicians, judges, police officers, magistrates as well. Pretty alarming when you look at state institutions and people's perception of them. There's a perceived corruption among the police. Well, this is some good news for them, but they're still top anyway. Has declined slightly compared to 2017. Now, when we look at trust, the question of trust, who do you trust? Majority, 72% say they trust the army. So at the top of the trust chain is the army. The second is religious leaders. You say whatever you want to say about religious leaders. People trust them. But guess what? Third on that list is the presidency. 58% say they trust the presidency. And so if you look at it, the presidency is the third most trusted institution in Ghana right now. That is something. If you look at the reverse, though, what about the opposition political parties? And they score really low when it comes to trust, 37%. People that don't trust opposition political parties. They trust the presidency more than they do the opposition political parties. The NDC has a statement out tonight challenging the findings, particularly as it relates to this. We'll go into that shortly. Now, local government officials, not trusted at all, 38%. And tax officials, who do trust the taxman? The GRA needs to pay attention to this. More than half, 53% of Ghanaians say corruption in the country has worsened under this current administration as well. 17 percentage point increase compared to 2017. And this follows a huge 47 percentage point improvement between 2014 and 2017. So there's been an improvement, and then there's a significant decline now. Now, compared to 2017, the survey says there has been a 27 percentage point drop in popular approval ratings of the government's performance in fighting corruption. So this corruption, people believe the government is not doing enough to fight it. The key question tonight, are we losing the war? Stay with us. We'll return. We'll get into the details.
Express is brought to you by...
You are live on PM Express tonight, and of course, it's a conversation about corruption. And in the studio with me is the Member of Parliament, Roxanne Dafiamekpo, who is also a member of the Constitutional Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament.
Yes.
And a proud Member of Parliament and representative of the people of
South Dying.
Good. And when the last time he was here, he was hot. he was going into a primary and he was really not sure. He's won and he's back. He knows he has another 4 years guaranteed. And so, yeah, he's smiling now. Thank you, Roxanne, for joining me.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Newton is with the CDD, and he had you were lead, right? In the
not the lead,
okay,
no, but the project team member.
Team member of the Afrobarometer, and they've done the work. Afrobarometer is a very, very controversial one. Always controversial when it comes out, and so yeah, let's look at it because it sort of gives us a sort of certain awakening when it comes to the fight against corruption. And so I'm sure you've heard the criticism against the work that you've done. NDC has issued a statement. When it comes to the part about where it says that opposition political parties, the trust in them pretty low, they have concerns there. You've heard the concerns. What do you say to these concerns of the work that you've done about its representativeness, its ability to give you a sense of historical trend analysis, and that this was taken almost out of context and done and thrown in at the time when we're just going to an election year? What do you say to all this?
Thank you. I must say that when the Afrobarometer question asks about opposition, it does not single out the NDC or any other minority political party. And so we sort of group all of them as opposition and then allow the citizens to tell us how much they trust them. And so I don't want the NDC to be taking the opposition as though that's their term. And again, if we look at the trend analysis also, trust in opposition party generally has been low. Though we don't ask the question about why, and I mean, for many people who respond to this, sometimes the anecdotal response they give is that, I mean, because they are in opposition, then that's why they sort of say certain things or act in certain ways or object everything that is proposed. And so generally that's the whole idea, but it's not as if this has been extremely low for opposition when this question is asked. It's just around the same trend.
So, what's the point of this Afrobarometer survey?
It is to give citizens a voice. And so policymakers, we want policymakers to know what citizens actually are saying when it comes to managing the economy, when it comes to corruption, governance, democracy, and all that relates to good governance.
Okay, we see because I have Roxanne here, I need to go to the part about the parliament. And if you look at trust in institutions, who is corrupt, I mean, even that, we'll come to that. When it comes to who is corrupt, parliamentarian, members of parliament are the third most corrupt institution. Well, it's not even the parliament, it's the members. So it's not the institution itself, but the members in the institution who are seen as corrupt. That is alarming. I mean, third most corrupt. In fact, they are far more corrupt than the tax officials. Really? Civil servants, the president and officials. Why? Can you explain that? I mean, give us a bit more about why that is the case.
And so, again, like I always say, the Afrobarometer is a quantitative study and does not ask the follow-up questions about why people respond in certain ways. And also,
they're more corrupt than traditional leaders, assemblymen and women. Wow. MMDCs.
But I think their visibility, particularly in the media, also count. And so there are issues that sometimes we have members of parliament who come sometimes to defend the executive on certain issues, on political, either political issues or policy issues, and sometimes even contracts. And so people's opinions are formed around some of these things. And so sometimes listening to their members of parliament defending the indefensible makes them get those perceptions. And so, like I'm saying, perception generally is driven by what people read, hear, observe around them. And so I think these are some of the factors that is influencing their opinion when it comes to who is corrupt across the various institutions that was listed.
Roxy, you need to respond to this. The members of parliament, and you're a member of parliament.
Yes.
A very prominent one because you're there, I mean, engaging on these public issues, are third most corrupt. You accept that?
I disagree with that vehemently. I'm still struggling to appreciate that point. And indeed, I saw that they fell into an era of maybe coinage, because when you speak of parliament, there are two institutions in parliament. It's a twin institution. We have the members of parliament, which form one segment of the Parliament of Ghana, and we are members of the parliamentary service, civil servants, public servants, who constitute the parliamentary service. They actually do the backroom work headed by the clerk to parliament, you know. But when you single out members of parliament to conduct an opinion poll in respect of not the work they do, but about corruption, I'm struggling. I don't know. I'm a member of parliament in the minority party. I'm in my third year, and I'm struggling to even appreciate what to even the semblance of having been corrupt. I'm still struggling. I've never gotten the opportunity to encounter such a thing. And so he says that because we appear on TV and defend policy positions, party positions, government positions, when an MP is a communicator and speaking on behalf of government, or an MP is a communicator speaks on behalf of the minority party, that should not be the basis. In fact, I've lectured in research methods before. I think the problem with the research with Afrobarometer is that they should try and narrow down some of the questionnaires. You could say that if you really want to gauge it, you could then divide the group into two. Because I see where he seeks to source the source of that perception. Okay, I'm in the minority, I don't speak for government. And a lot of the controversial issues were generated by government.
Yeah.
So if my colleague appears in the media and speaks in defense of some of these matters, if you want to gauge the people's opinion of such a person, there should be a way of differentiating that person from me. All right? Now, I will point out one other thing. You saw that they also gauged the trust levels within the New Patriotic Party.
Yes.
And left out the NDC. And so to lump the NDC together with about the over 15 existing other minority parties. When you do that, with all due respect to the other minority parties, some have been indolent for the past 3 years, since after the elections. I've never heard some even speak on any matter, even though they have national offices. I don't want to mention names, but it's been the NDC. So if you really want to match up the NDC in opposition vis-a-vis the NPP in government, you could do so conveniently with the research. You understand my point?
Yeah.
But now, you having done that, you conveniently said opposition parties. But the analysts of the reports out there, particularly communicators from the government side, are saying, when we say the opposition party did government, it is the NDC.
Because you are the largest.
Of course. Yeah. And you also fall into that error of assessment. So I just want to point out the fact that when you do that, then you give fodder for others to feed on.
I'm going to come to the MP's corruption question.
But I want to deal with the issue of the parliamentarians.
Yes.
Parliament as an institution, we have very little opportunity to get corrupt.
Really?
Yes.
Are you sure? Should I read something to you that backbench said?
My brother, hold on. I am not in leadership, so I can't speak for leadership. But I belong to the backbench. All all that we encounter is papers every day. Papers, voluminous documents. We spent hours on end poring over them, trying to make sure the details, the mathematics add up, and let and approve them so government can go ahead with its business. How do I get corrupted doing this?
Yeah.
You understand my point? So we must be careful, otherwise then we give the opportunity to people, because this is a research, and he says it's a scientific research.
Yeah.
It will go into the records, and somebody will dig this up 10 years ago.
Let me read something that Alban Bagbin,
Very well.
the second deputy speaker,
Yes.
said when in fact he was the majority leader. There was a big controversy, I'm sure you remember.
At the time.
He says that MPs are corrupt, and quote him then, the reality is that MPs are Ghanaians, and there's evidence that some MPs take bribes and come to the floor and try to articulate the views of their sponsors. So yeah, there may be documents before you.
Hold on.
But the documents come according to Bagbin with bribes.
He qualifies it. He says some MPs.
Yes.
All right. He qualifies it, and he says he's speaking to evidence, the availability of evidence. He is gauging perception.
Yes, but that's what feeds the perception.
Hold on. And he coins his question in such a way that the respondent has no choice, okay, than to just answer directly. And that's what worries me. He didn't devote a whole chapter on Parliament. All right. I think it's just a single line question in respect of Parliament, or we're even bundled up with some other public institutions for people to just select that from among this tall list of public institutions, check or take or determine which one is more corrupt. Then we are not even described as Parliament of Ghana. It's the members of Parliament. And I form a part of that subset. Yeah. And I'm really scandalized.
But maybe you are the exception.
There are a lot of exceptional ones in Parliament.
In the minority.
Well,
no, I don't mean the NDC minority, but the exceptional ones are in the minority.
But let us do that. I am not holding brief for Parliament. But I'm saying that...
But what you're asking him to do is impossible.
It is possible.
The way to do what you're suggesting is to put all 275 names and then say which one is most corrupt and then...
No, it is very possible.
You have to look at the group.
No, here's the analysis. It's very possible to do that.
Is it possible?
It is possible.
So I must say that Afrobarometer, as we have it in Ghana, is not just limited to Ghana. We do this...
It's all over.
We do this in, at least we've done this in up to 38 countries. And for this round of the survey, we are doing it in 35 countries. And so, and the instrument is also standardized. And so what we use here will be the same instrument we will use if we go to South Africa, the same instrument we will use if we go to Liberia.
I disagree.
So he disagrees with that. Why?
It's not the instrument, the questionnaire. It varies. I've seen their reports on Guinea. I've seen their report on Namibia. I've seen their report on Sudan. I've seen their report on, I think, Zambia. And you see, the questionnaires vary depending on the focus of the thematic areas. You understand? So if you really want Parliament to feature, so we debate this matter, you don't just lump me together with some other institutions and throw in one line.
Let him explain.
Okay. Yeah. So I didn't finish my statement.
Okay, go on.
The instrument, I mean, basically is the same as the questionnaire. Okay. And so we internally call it the instrument because that's what we use to gauge the opinion. And so there are questions that are standardized across all the other countries that we do this. There are country-specific questions. When it comes to corruption, corruption is one issue that we gauge around across the continent.
I've seen that.
And so that question, for instance, is standard. And so and the options are almost standard. That is, if we have a president in all of them, then you see presidents appearing in all of them. If you have members of parliament, otherwise, then it is couched as it is called in that country. Other than that, then every other thing is the same. So the question is the same. The options are the same. He talked about the respondents have no option or choice. Alternatives. That is false. because if you look at the document which we both or we all have,
it has other.
You will see that there is most of them, all of them, some of them, and there is even the option of don't know or refuse to answer, and so it's not as if the respondents have no option.
Most or all.
Exactly.
And, some.
And so in the analysis, then we add most or all. And so if whatever the figures are, we add those two figures, and then we make.
So I see that most or all for the members of parliament is 36.
Exactly.
36%.
Which means there was option for people who said all of them, and there was option for people who said some of them. There was option for those who said none of them.
But in reporting, why don't you give us the disaggregated numbers?
So all of that information will be made available, and in fact, for those who have been.
But for a public document, it's just to facilitate the proper, rich conversation. I mean, it would be good to know, for example, all. So then all. Then he would part of the all.
That is metadata that can be made made available. And so for the previous rounds of the Afrobarometer survey, if you go online to afrobarometer.org, you would see all of these specific responses.
Okay.
But for the purposes of reporting, this is made. And so when there's a publication, this is like a press statement. And so we don't want to put too many disaggregated information out there. We want to put them together so they make sense. But in a publication on this, which will be released hopefully by end of this week, you will see the specifics in there. And so this is just for PowerPoint presentation. So let me just to finish. So the issue about respondents not having the option to choose, that is completely false. And so the instrument is standardized across the various countries, and so we can't have, for instance, I mean, that would be like a whole research on its own, just targeting Parliament to do a survey on. So we can't have the parliamentary service separate, members of Parliament separate, the leadership of Parliament separate. That would be an entire research on its own. But this is very specific as to members of Parliament. This is not the views of Newton, who is talking right now. This is the collective view of Ghanaians.
Of constituents.
Of constituents.
Yeah, who are Ghanaians.
And so
assessing their members of parliament.
Evans,
Roxy.
Newton, you have crafted questionnaire eliciting opinion from people that is damning of an institution that I belong to. And you think that we shouldn't interrogate that. Now, how is it possible that you can say that all and most are the same and put them in the same bracket? It cannot. From the work you do, you know that when you are analyzing opinions of people who say all are corrupt, will certainly be different from most are corrupt. But you erroneously lumped all and most together to give you a higher percentage, with which you are damning the institution.
And then you further even add some to all and most, and then you get the third most corrupt.
So I have a problem. I have a big problem with that structure of analysis. All right, but all in all, I think it's a good gauge. It's a wake-up call that we are being watched.
But Roxy, you've done this. You've done this for a while now. Yeah, almost 4 years now.
Yes.
Even without Afrobarometer,
the
perception out there is that generally politicians are corrupt. Generally, right?
Indeed, yes.
And then if you disaggregate that, you find politicians in the executive and in parliament.
Yes.
And so why is there a surprise? In fact, you probably should have been the first.
You see,
because if there's just a total mistrust for politicians.
Of course, I agree. But you see, and I agree that it's a lifestyle. It's in the primariness of the everyday life of a politician feeds into it becomes a folder that people feed on, that eventually feed some of these erroneous perceptions. All right. Now, if you look at what we do every day, for instance, you are aware that people think we get free fuel.
Don't you?
No. You are aware that people think that we get free lunch. I buy my lunch every day.
But you have a very fantastic restaurant there. Isn't it free?
It's not a restaurant. It's a coffee. It's a
Isn't it
tea
free?
area. No, it's never free, Evans. So you see, even you sitting here, you are infected with that erroneous perception. We don't. There are a lot of things we don't have. Indeed, I got into the institution to discover that also. So it is important that the corporate affairs wing of Parliament, Kate Addo, Miss Kate Addo, should begin
But
to.
here is the thing about communications.
Yes,
You have to communicate based on the pre-existing reality.
exactly.
But the reality for most people will be that the
Yes.
politicians are just not up to it when it comes to cleanness. So what is she? How can they brand you when you are dirty? You are dirty. You
Because
can't clean it.
we think that the thing cannot be clean, or the minds
can
of
it?
hold on. You think that the minds of the people cannot be
No, it's not about
disabused.
that's not my point. It's not about the minds of the people. It's about the people
I have
themselves.
just
in the
given
member
you,
parliament.
and you belong to that subset. I have just given you two information that perhaps has disabused your mind.
Yeah, but
That I don't have free fuel. No, I don't have free
fuel.
fuel. I don't have free lunch. Even the tea, the Lipton, and sometimes the bread that I take in the morning, I pay for. The canteen,
But you must pay for.
Yes, the canteen is operated by a private person.
Yes.
You understand?
Just like anybody else.
Exactly.
So-
but people think
but that's
we,
not where-
we get free lunch, we get free breakfast, we get free fuel.
No, but that's not where the perception. The
Even
perception
the
is in
big-
what Babin was saying, that you guys take bribes.
No, again, I agree with you that sometimes the comments of even colleagues from Parliament also help to feed some of these wrongful perceptions, and it is hurting the image of Parliament. And if you listen to people like the majority leader, the minority leader, they get worried that the commentaries that some colleagues run on the institution helps to bastardize the image of the institution. And so, even though we are supposed to be the most powerful, we end up being the most, not too strong.
I need to move on to. I need to move on to the
NDCs.
opposition political parties.
Yes.
But I need to just point out that media people, we are the least corrupt, least on the list of Afrobarometer. Check it at the bottom. It's media persons from public media institutions, media persons from private. In fact, we are the least. So, Roxanne just Afrobarometer clears us off. So don't believe anybody who said that. We are the least corrupt. Am I lying? Just
among the institutions.
we are the least corrupt.
Yes.
Least corrupt. Yes. Thank you very much.
So
But let me raise that issue then.
yes.
How is it possible that people trust the president far more than they trust the opposition parties? I mean, in fact, the opposition parties are the third least trusted group of people.
I'll deal with that. I think again, the nature of the question must have misled the respondents in responding to the question in the manner they did. And here's why. If you take the trust level for the presidency, I think they refer to it as the presidency. So the whole gamut of that institution. The perception, the trust perception level positively for the presidency dropped from 73% in 2017 to 58%. Now, within that 58% bracket, there are two indices. And that's where I have a problem. There are two indices combined. There are those who actually trust the president, which is about 33%, and those who somewhat trust the president.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
A little bit. That's the meaning of somewhat.
Yeah.
A bit. But those who actually say that they trust the presidency is 33%. But they maybe disingenuously adding the percentage that says they somehow trust the president, that's about 28%, to the 33% to give them the percentage that is being
the 58?
reflecting as the 58. Well, they come third to behind the military and religious leaders.
Yeah.
Now, so I want to dwell on the people who actually said that they trust the president, 33%.
Okay.
So if the bar is dropping from 73% to 33%, And maybe
okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. The 73% will also have been an aggregation of these.
I have actually looked at the 2017 reports.
Yeah.
I think because it's also quite a heavy report, but I couldn't print all. It was also an aggregate.
Yes.
But there, you see that the people who actually said they trust the president at the time was, I think, about 50%. Yes. But this time it's 33%.
So in cases dropped, you say?
So he's declining. All the indices are declining. All the indices, in respect of the perception from economic performance, from livelihood. Oh.
But you even make the point for the government even stronger. They are declining, and yet they still trust him better than opposition.
You see,
even in the decline,
I'm not making
it's still better than.
No. That is where I have a problem, and the problem is that how do you lump all the opposition party together? Be very specific. Say the NDC. Let the NDC be gauged vis-a-vis the NPP, which has constituted the government, and let us put this debate in a proper context. But if you lump me together with the performance of a party that hasn't spoken in opposition for 3 years, and you want the indolence of that party to adversely affect my image.
But yet the measure is not about indolence, it's about trust.
No. Why? People won't trust you when you are indolent, when you don't talk, when there are public issues, we don't hear you, even though you are in opposition, you are a minority party. How would they trust you? All the criticism so far against government have essentially come from the NDC.
True.
And yet, so if you lump the performance of all the other over 15 other minority parties who are essentially not speaking, and their non-performance adversely affect the image of the NDC, and you don't gauge the NDC qua NDC in opposition, but you want to say opposition parties naturally. But it makes the point that from trend analysis, all opposition parties, once you are in opposition, the people generally don't trust you, as it were. But why? But how are they able to trust you and bring you back to power?
But you said that. But yes. I think rather to the contrary. Once you leave, the trust levels in government should be lower than when you're in opposition. You don't control the resources.
And that's
you are in opposition. In fact, when you're in opposition, you are a saint.
So
you everything is wrong on the other side.
That is the essence of our press conference this evening. We are asking, why are you measuring trust level in an opposition party that does not control resources?
No, but that's a flawed question.
No, it's
because
not a flawed question.
You're government in waiting. You're government in waiting.
I agree.
In fact, what we are going to do next year, December 7th, is simply say between you and then who do we trust the most.
So the use of trust is nebulous.
No, it's not.
No,
it's fundamental to what will happen on December 7th.
Is it moral trust? Or trust in policy alternative.
It doesn't matter. It
matters.
It doesn't matter.
It matters. You see, you are gauging the perception of people who haven't been to school. And you are talking of trust. And they speak in the vernacular and you translate. So if you don't fine-tune the trust.
Why do you have to fine-tune the trust?
You have to fine-tune.
When a guy go into the booth on December 7th.
No, you have to.
It's which of them I trust the most? Nanado or John Mahama, MPP or NDC, and I vote.
No, that is not the kind of trust people want.
But you see, but that's the thing. That's the kind of trust.
No.
The guy is going to say, who do I trust to fix my road? Who do I trust to do my hospital? Who do I trust to run the economy? Who do I trust to deal with corruption? Who do I trust to fix education? And then he goes there and makes the decision based on trust.
You see, let me show you something. In 2017, they asked the question. In fact, their 99th question is to the effect that if presidential elections were held tomorrow, which party's candidate would you vote for? In 2017, we are just left 2016. We just conducted general elections. The NPP had just taken over. But you saw it fit to measure perception of people regarding who they'll vote for if elections were held in 2017. Why didn't they say today that if elections were brought back 1 year down the line and it's held today, like Monday, today is what date?
Today is 12.
No.
Today 4.
4. Okay, so let's say Saturday, 7th.
Yeah.
If elections were held on Saturday, 7th December, which party or candidate will you vote for? It didn't feature in 2019.
Oh, so that was not part of it.
No, it wasn't. It didn't feature.
Yeah.
But I'm making a point. I'm saying that there are certain questions that are so important. When you craft them in a manner, you elicit a viewpoint. That would be so critical. 1 year to election, you are not gauging people's opinion as to who they'll vote for 1 year in a year's time. You are asking them about trust. All right? And here is the case, you've lumped all of over 15 opposition parties, some being indolent. How do you expect the person to speak about this? So that's why the NDC is saying, if you had said the NDC, we gauge trust level within NDC, qua NDC, and it is 12%, we'll be speaking to it.
Yeah.
We'll, for instance, tell you that we are here to launch our manifesto. So once we haven't done that, people are not sure.
No, but it has a point, hasn't it? Because there's the next slide where you have trust in institutions and you have the new patriotic party measure. Why didn't you have the National Democratic Congress there?
You have a question to answer there.
So
Yeah.
that's what I explained earlier. So we asked the question because we would always have a government in power, which would be backed by a certain political party, and so this would be consistent across all the other countries.
No, but that shouldn't be the case in this instance, because in some countries they don't have a duopoly like we have.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in countries where they have 5 political parties that are equally strong, anybody can win.
Or for me, alliance.
Of an alliance, you can't use the same question. But in Ghana, it's 2. So if you are doing it for one party, you must as well do it for the other party. Our peculiar situation should have influenced the framing of this question, because we have 2 parties. In fact, we don't have any other political party, if you ask me. The others are non-existent. They don't exist in name. We all know this.
Be careful what you say.
That's false.
That's false. You know what I mean? On paper.
You see that you say that's false.
That's false.
But seriously, I'm saying this can be
I
defended.
agree with you. But
Yes,
I know, but I mean, we know what I'm saying.
I
want to go to
understand
they
you,
get 0 points. No, we're talking about,
they
so
didn't
in
get
Ghana,
0.
when you're doing that, you definitely must have NDC and PP.
So
Today when my general secretary was mentioning the parties, I was shocked. Over 15 political parties. Yeah. And he knows, he has the data. So
I think the
But you agree
the
that is
question
something that should have, our circumstance should have dictated a certain change in the way you are measuring.
I think we should make this clear that trying to use a question to interpret something else that you want to explain would not fit. The question about trust has nothing to do as it is with who will you vote for. If we are to interpret that question, who do you trust? If people say they trust their religious leaders, it does not translate into they will vote for their religious leaders.
No, I pulled the voting question from your 2017 because he linked it to voting.
But
that if you trust,
if
it's about voting, they'll say, okay, I want to vote, but who do I trust?
Yes.
And the trust will precede the casting of the ballot. I
must say that question, that horse race question, that is, if elections were held today, it's not as if that question was not asked.
Was it asked?
It was asked.
Why is not out? Why is the result not out?
You would have also noticed that we've had...
You suppressed it?
No, so Afrobarometer asked 100 questions. And so we put these questions in, when releasing the findings, we put them into themes. And so we don't push out all the findings from the 100 questions to the public. So we put them into thematic areas. And so somewhere last week or last 2 weeks, there was one on the economic conditions.
So what you're saying that answer, the results for that will come out?
Will come out.
When?
It will come out.
I want to see it now. I want to see it now.
So that
no, but timing is everything.
Yes.
If you wait till election year and release that, you're in trouble. Because that has a potential of influencing.
And I mean,
Evans, this is revealing. This is very revealing. You know why? If we take the 2017 Afrobarometer, you mentioned the name for the questionnaire.
Instrument.
Yeah. The last question, and here is how they framed it. Question 100, just one more question, because they suspect the person will be tired.
Yeah.
What do you think, who do you think sent us to do this interview? And listen, No one. Afrobarometer, research company, non-governmental or religious organization, university, school or college, private company, media, political party or politician, government. Do you know the respondents for government? Over 30.
And that's the single largest.
Yes.
Okay.
People think that they were sent by government. And you think that will not influence their views?
Of course it will.
Yes.
But that's the fault of theirs.
No, so I am rather shocked to hear that it featured this time, but we don't have
the result.
The summary of that. So I'm beginning to suspect that there's a report but it's been suppressed for a purpose.
No,
because it's been said by government.
But you have to respond to that because arguably it's going to be the most controversial of the things you put out already. And the reason why you held on to it, nobody knows. I mean, after tonight that they know that it's there, you'll be getting calls tomorrow.
I can give a teaser, but then...
Give me a teaser.
So the findings does not put any of the political parties in a position to win election. That is 50 plus 1 vote.
But the NDC is ahead, isn't it?
That is a question again that I will not answer.
No, but that is very instructive. But that is a feather in the cap of the NDC. I mean, don't speak to this because this is politics, and me and him, we can do this. It's if that what you're saying is what the results say, NDC should be smiling because we know that what you're saying in effect is that NDC will push the NADO to a runoff. Roxy.
Yes.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, but that's what we did with it.
and any time that has happened, the opposition party wins the elections. But here, this is exciting because I'm not saying it's exciting. I love this analysis, so you know this already. But here's the thing, Roxy. This is the second research that confirms a runoff. Yeah. The University of Ghana Political Science Department.
The one we tackled
in 2018, last year, did a similar research, said the same thing, that there'll be no one-touch victory for anybody. Well, Roxy, just a brief comment on this, because if I leave you to this, you probably would.
No.
Wouldn't end.
It's you see, the research is supposed to be a microcosm of the macrocosm. It's supposed to reflect the micro views of the respondents, which in turn is supposed to mirror the generality of the thinking of the people. So I'm happy that we've been able to whittle down the 3% on the 50 up to 50, and we whittled it down further to below 50. And if you look at the various indices from all, I think by the nature of the program, you didn't allow us to take the indices one after the other.
Let's do it. We have some time. Let's go through
the president. If you take, for instance, when you say whether the economy is in the right direction, there's a decline in terms of perception from 85% in 2017 to 59. That's a decline of about 26%. And we have a whole 1 year to go. And there are a lot of things happening, and the government is going to enter into election year. There will be pressure. You mentioned that they said 2020 will be the year of roads. Already we are questioning, if you look at the number of roads they mentioned to do, about 2,200 kilometers. Even if half of this is asphalt, at the cost of our $1.2 million, we did the computation, it's very difficult for them to raise the money. So if you assure somebody that you do 3 roads in his region in 2020, and you are not able to even finish one, you have a problem.
Yeah.
So the government is going to run into a lot of difficulties, which will still inure to our benefit. And that's the way the game is. So if you leave that,
but don't celebrate yet.
I'm not celebrating.
The whole year.
I agree.
Is a long time.
I agree.
In politics.
I agree.
Even 1 week.
I agree. That's why this morning, when government communicators were all focusing on the trust, then I disaggregated the trust figure. Then they sat up. I say, if you look at the trust, it's two composite analysis put together. Those who said they actually trust the president, and those who said they somewhat. Yeah. So it woke them up, And if you look at managing economy well, he has dropped from 71% who thought in 2017 of the respondents who thought in 2017 that he was doing well to 51. That's also a drop. All right. Then if you look at on corruption, in 2017, 39% of the respondents thought that it was less corrupt. But now 53% think that there's corruption in his government. And that's an appreciation of 14% of people who are now beginning to think that there's some level of corruption.
But again, if you disaggregate us clearly,
yeah,
you link that to the question of who is corrupt.
Yeah.
You actually notice that the institutions that are corrupt are not government, are not the president and his appointees.
Well, we did debate this one, Evans. He appoints the head of the police service, the head of the judiciary, all the institutions, name them. He appoints all the top personnel.
So
if they are corrupt, by extension, either his control, either his control is weak because he hasn't fired any serious person yet. You understand me? So for me, that's what I will do. That is what I will do.
But how do you, for example, blame the corruption of the judiciary?
The corruption of the judiciary
on the president.
He has had the opportunity to appoint a chief justice.
That's a stretch.
Hold on. What has been the reforms within the judiciary ever since he
But the
became
president cannot reform the judiciary.
He can.
The Chief Justice,
why? He can introduce reforms.
How?
He can build new courthouses.
But that's not fixing corruption.
That's fixing corruption.
But even that
when the access to administration of justice is so expensive, when courthouses are being closed down and people are now compelled on economic grounds to travel longer distances to access justice, and when they get to those new court premises, because they are new in that environment, they must pay to find their way.
So what about members of parliament who is corrupt? What has the president got to do with that?
Members of parliament, my view is that he appoints the speaker, and we voted for the speaker, his nominee. Now,
members of parliament.
Yes.
What does the speaker got to do with the members of parliament?
But the speaker is the head of parliament.
But if members of parliament are corrupt, and the leader of the members is the speaker, and the speaker is appointed by the president, it's not. But even that's not true.
No, it's not true. It's not
the leader of the speaker is not appointed by the president. It's not appointed by the president.
No, the speaker is nominated.
It's not appointed by the president.
No, but he's nominated.
Yeah, but that's the point. I mean, he's not appointed by the president.
But he's nominated.
No, but he's not appointed by the president.
But he nominates.
Hold on.
Just like the way he nominates Supreme Court judges.
Yes, but he doesn't appoint.
And that we approve of. So we elected.
So we elected. You have the final say.
The leader of the House is the majority leader in terms of parliamentary procedure. Now, he also doubles as the leader of government business and Minister of Parliamentary Affairs. Minister of Parliamentary Affairs.
So it's the president's fault. The parliament is corrupt.
Is it not his fault?
Oh, goodness.
It is his fault. that is the analysis I will make.
Civil servants.
Exactly.
Tax officials.
Exactly.
MMDC.
He appoints
traditional leaders.
He appoints the Commissioner General.
Traditional leaders.
Commissioner General, GRE.
Okay, traditional leaders.
Traditional leaders. Well, he has a constitutional relationship with the
incredible.
No, I'm not incredible. I'm just telling you. You see, that is where we have a problem.
Officials of the Electoral Commission or the chairperson.
He just instructed the Electoral Commission not to go ahead with his program. You are aware. Media persons. Well, he has representatives of the Media Commission. So you see, if you take all this gamut of institutions, by and large, he's supposed to exercise some control on a lot of them. And we'll leave the jokes aside. But I think that the laissez-faire approach to handling some of these institutions, I give him credit. So I'm beginning to wonder that, but for the fact that he established the Office of the Special Prosecutor and brought the RTI bill, we passed into law, and brought the Witness Protection Bill, we also passed into these three key anti-corruption or corruption fighting organs or institutions. And I don't know how the written of him would have gone. These are key things that should be propelling him through the crowds. But no.
Yeah.
You know, and if you look at
Finally, yeah.
fighting crime, in 2017, 66% of the respondents thought that he was on top. Now it is 43. If you look at addressing the needs of youth, 62% in 2017 thought he was doing so. Now it is 47%.
It's called the curse of incumbency.
Exactly.
I mean, it's normal.
You know, and if you look at responsiveness to job creation, in 2017 they thought 41% thought that he was doing well. Now it is 29. Infrastructure. As for infrastructure, he knows is the #1 priority for a lot of people. Free SHS, topmost. 87 says is a good policy. But out of that, 50% thought that you should have made it available to only the poor. But how do you determine the poor in the Republic of Ghana?
Yeah.
And again, another percentage, 55% says that you should have built infrastructure before rolling out the policy.
Yeah.
So the indices, they do not favor him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, generally, the government's performance on so many indicators have dropped. People's expectations from, if you compare from 2017 and now, a lot of things have dropped, and when it comes to corruption, people are perceiving the government to be corrupt. I mean, larger percentage of Ghanaians. But I think what is striking is the fear of Ghanaians that if they report corruption, there will be retaliation. There'll be retaliation. That's the fear. And so whilst we are generally reporting higher or increasing percentage of Ghanaians who think corruption is on the ascendancy, I think it is scary that people are afraid to speak up even when they encounter some of these things or witness.
Even with witness protection program now in force.
And I think this is good feedback to all the institutions that want to fight crime, corruption in the country.
Newton Novio, thank you very much for joining me. Roxy, I'm grateful that you joined me. We'll see. I can't really wait for the one about who wins the
surprise one.
The surprise one. Enjoy the rest of your evening, ladies and gentlemen.
PM Express was brought to you by
Emirates. Fly better.